O Mother Nui, stretch high above this valley. Your starry body is our glory. Then see the hawk of yonder Rahur quit, his fiery splendor, oh so mighty. He brings a light for all our weary souls. He makes the broken spirit whole.
Usually when you think about downloading an operating system, you picture a phone updating in the middle of the night.
Right, purely digital thing.
Exactly. But what if you could, download an update directly into your physical body? Like an esoteric software update for your own psyche.
Which sounds totally crazy, but that is exactly what we were looking at today for this deep dive.
Right. We've got a stack of analyses on a 19th century practice called the Qabalistic Cross. And our mission for you today is to figure out how this highly specific ritual functions as a psychological and spatial blueprint.
Yeah, a blueprint for balancing the human mind.
Yeah.
And to understand how this software works, you really have to look at its source code.
The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, right? Like back in 1887.
Yep, essentially Victorian occultists.
Yeah.
They studied, everything from alchemy to ancient Egyptian magic.
Mm.
But the ritual itself is just this wild mashup.
Because it's not traditional Judaism, and it's definitely not Christianity.
Not at all. It takes the Jewish Kabbalistic tree of life, which is like a mystical diagram of the universe, and maps it directly over the human body.
Okay.
But for the actual words, they used a Greek Christian doxology, which is basically just a short liturgical hymn of praise.
Like the phrase at the very end of the Lord's Prayer.
Exactly. But they didn't even speak it in Greek. They translated it into Hebrew.
Wait, that just sounds like they were, arbitrarily throwing religions into a blender to see what sounded cool. Why translate a Greek Christian prayer into Hebrew just to map out a Jewish mystic framework?
I mean, it looks chaotic from the outside, sure, but it's actually a highly calculated spiritual remix.
Oh, okay.
By mixing these traditions, they deliberately stripped the words of their orthodox baggage. So it was no longer about worshiping an external deity in a church or a synagogue.
Right. They wanted to bypass strict religious dogma entirely.
Yeah, to create a universal psychological tool. It's a physical manifestation of, as above, so below. You are actively building a geometric blueprint of the universe inside yourself.
Okay, so if the goal is to build this universe inside yourself, how does a normal person actually, boot up the system?
Well, it starts entirely in the imagination. You visualize yourself expanding outward into space until the entire Earth is just like the size of a soccer ball at your feet.
Wow, just a tiny soccer ball.
Yeah, and once you hold that image of being this cosmic giant, you draw a shaft of divine light from above your crown.
Which they call Ate, right?
Right, Ate. And you draw it straight down through your body to the Earth at your feet, which is Melkuth. That establishes your vertical axis.
Okay, and then you build the crossbar. You touch your right shoulder to represent severity and your left shoulder for mercy.
Exactly.
But wait, looking at standard diagrams of the Tree of Life, severity is always drawn on the left side, right? And mercy is on the right. Why are we reversing it on our own bodies?
Because you aren't supposed to just look at the tree like a math on a wall. You back into it.
Back into it. So it's the difference between staring at a jacket on a hanger versus actually putting the jacket on.
Yes, perfect analogy. Your right arm fills the sleeve that was hanging on the left side.
Right, but I have to ask, how does that spatial shift actually change someone's everyday mindset? I mean, touching my right shoulder doesn't magically make me a more disciplined person.
Well, it doesn't happen by magic. It happens through spatial cognition.
Okay.
When you look at a map, you are just an observer analyzing the balance between discipline, severity and compassion, mercy.
Sure.
But when you physically map those concepts onto your own limbs, your brain processes them differently. You basically force your nervous system to internalize those forces.
So your physical center becomes the exact pivot point where discipline and compassion intersect.
Exactly. You are physically rehearsing emotional regulation.
But the spatial motions are only half the instructions. The sources emphasize that you have to perform this with, extreme acoustic execution.
Yeah, the words must be vibrated. Israel Regardie taught that you have to resonate the Hebrew names deeply within your skeletal structure.
So you don't just say the words, you buzz them through your bones.
Right. And later on, Aleister Crowley took it to an extreme. He demanded this exhausting, roaring lunge when vibrating the words.
Designed to leave you sweating and physically drained.
Completely drained.
Okay, I have to call a timeout here. This is where I struggle with the mystical claims.
How so?
Well, is there actual magical power in the historical weight of these specific Hebrew words? Because to me, Crowley's roaring method just sounds like an extreme physiological biohack.
It really does.
Right, you're hyperventilating, you're stimulating the vagus nerve with vocal vibrations, you're basically just forcing your brain into an altered state through physical exhaustion.
You are absolutely right about the physiology. It is a biohack. The intense vocal vibration stimulates the vagus nerve, which drops your heart rate and shifts your consciousness.
Exactly.
But the Golden Dawn would argue that the biohack is the magic. The physical exhaustion breaks down your conscious defenses, sure.
Right.
But the spatial geometry, the cross you just built in your mind, gives that altered state a structure.
Oh, I see. So the vibration opens the door and the geometry tells you where to walk.
Exactly. And the underlying physical architecture is so mechanically sound that later variations, like Crowley's Star Ruby ritual, actually swapped out the Hebrew entirely for Greek.
Wait, really?
Yeah, but he kept the exact same spatial mechanics. The psychological grounding holds up, regardless of the language.
That is fascinating. And it shows you really don't need to be a ceremonial magician to take something away from this deep dive.
Definitely not.
It's basically a masterclass in using spatial mapping to ground your highest abstract ideals into physical reality.
Yeah, when you need to balance your own internal severity and mercy, sometimes you have to literally build that balance in your physical space.
Because the Qabalistic Cross survived, since its psychological geometry adapts to practically any belief system.
It's basically an empty vessel you can pour your own meaning into.
Which leaves you, the listener, with this to chew on.
Yeah, think about this.
If a 19th century spiritual remix could become an enduring operating system for the human mind, what seemingly mundane, secular routines are you performing today that might naturally evolve into the codified magic rituals of the next century? Think about what you're downloading into your psyche tomorrow morning.